days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. Game preview show. 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks. Ooh, I can't wait for this one. This is going to be absolutely fantastic tonight. Could be the night the San Francisco 49ers win the NFC West. And what a better way. Is there any better way than to beat Seattle in Seattle? And that's what the 49ers are going to try to do. And what is up, Gary? Hey, how's it going? Always good to do a live stream for the game preview show. Don't usually do it on game day, but Thursday affords me that opportunity. Of course, if you come through chat and you got something to say, let me know. If you like the video, I appreciate that. Go ahead and leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that. And if you want to know when I go live, go ahead and click that notification bell. It'll notify you when we go live. At least that's what YouTube says it does. And what's up, traffic? How's it going? Now, this matchup is going to be very interesting because you have polar opposites. The things that the 49ers do really well are things Seattle can't really stop. And there's a couple of things that Seattle, has the opportunity to do well that maybe the 49ers have a little bit of a weakness in. And we're going to go over those things and see exactly where the 49ers and Seattle Seahawks match up, because I actually believe this isn't a very good matchup for the Seahawks. The 49ers and the way that they're built and the way that they're constituted are just a bad matchup overall, especially when it comes to the run game and run defense. Seattle, 31st best defense against the run in the league. It's not exactly one of the most potent groups, and they've had injuries along the interior defensive line as well. They're going to get one guy back, but they're still without their best run stopper. So there's going to be some issues there. And then, of course, I've watched a lot of the Seattle Seahawks film, not just the game in week 2, but also the game last week against the Panthers. And I think there's opportunities for the 49ers to be able to attack. And thank you so much, Daryl, for the super chat. It says, let's go, big dog. Good to see you. Good to see you as well, Daryl. And then what's up, Paul? How's it going? Welcome to chat with the hashtag TCC. This is going to be a good one. So let's get into this a little bit and find exactly where the 49ers have good matchups against the Seattle Seahawks. I think it starts with the run game. I mean, I know Seattle is still one of those teams that's, been a pretty good team as far as win-loss record. 7-6, not a bad year, but they've lost 3 out of their last 4. They've been on a little bit of a skid, and I think some of the numbers coincide. Some of the run games, kind of their stretch run where they played really well, they slowed the run game down. They never stopped it, but they definitely slowed it down. And I think that that's one thing that they've struggled with, especially over the last several weeks, where they've really lost. So let's just go over their last 4 games where they've had 3 losses and 1 win. Their 1 win, they gave up 171 yards rushing to the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, that's a Rams team with their 3rd-string backup quarterback, but that's how they won. Now look at the other matchups. They lost to Tampa Bay, a team that we held to basically nothing on the ground. They gave up 161 yards to Tampa Bay. And then the Las Vegas Raiders are the ones who went off for 283 yards, over 200 yards for Jacobs. Spectacular there. So even in their wins, they're giving up 170-plus yards. 49ers got 189 yards in week 2. It's just, their defense really, really struggles. And what's up, Jan? And how's it going, WTM? Saying hit that like button. How's it going? And hey, yo, from Jan. I love that. Hey, yo. Joel, how's it going? It's one of those things where with this run defense, it's really going to be a problem for the Seattle Seahawks. I look at their roster, and overall on defense, they just are missing some guys. Al Woods, of course, is questionable. He's probably not going to play in this football game. He was listed as actually doubtful on their injury report, and he's their best run stopper at the nose tackle position. They still have Shelby Harris, who they got in the trade for Russell Wilson. He'll still be good on the interior, but there's so many lanes to be able to run the football. Did the Patreon breakdown, and there was just so many bubbles in the defense that teams are taking advantage of. And Seattle's commitment to stop the run has to include a safety coming into the box. They've been dealing with an injury with Ryan Neal. Don't know if he's going to play in this game, but if they have to commit an 8th guy to the box and still not be able to stop the run, the 49ers offense is going to be unstoppable, because if you can run against an 8-man box, number one, you can just keep pounding it down their throat. But if they have to commit that 8th man and they're worried about that, then you can get play action, because when it comes down to it, this is one of the most aggressive linebacker groups in trying to stop the run. They have to overcommit. Cody Barton and Jordan Brooks commit a lot of energy to stopping the run. They fly upfield. So you know what that means. You can take advantage of it in the play action game, because as they're approaching and moving forward towards the line of scrimmage, it creates a void between them and Quandre Diggs, between them and that safety that's over the top in that single high. So that creates a nice void for Brock Purdy. And of course, the report from Adam Schefter just over an hour ago, Brock Purdy expected to start tonight. He broke the news last week about players that were going to be playing in the game last week. He breaks about players going to be playing in the game this week. It's good news for the 49ers. Brock Purdy's going to be at the helm, and I think he could take advantage of that void. But it also means they're going to be able to move the pocket. Now, with the defense that they run there in Seattle, they will have guys on the outside. They will have guys like Bruce Irvin that will be able to play those linebacker spots on the outside and try to keep Brock Purdy within the pocket. If he gets outside the pocket and he's able to see with great vision, he throws so good off schedule and on the move that he's going to be able to find open receivers. So it all comes down to, can Seattle stop the run game of the San Francisco 49ers? I don't think they can. I really don't. I think it's going to be a problem. And WTM, I'm going to get to your question right after this. Mr. Corey says, Ant, are you having a Purdy day? I'm having a very Purdy day. It's a nice December morning in Northern California. It was nice and crisp and cold this morning, but it's a nice day. And WTM says, what's the Seahawks' biggest weakness? I think their biggest weakness is their trenches, their offensive line, their defensive line. I think that they really struggle there. I like, overall, I like the 49ers matchup against those groups. I mean, yes, they've had a pretty good group. They got Charles Cross, he's the left tackle, Damian Lewis, left guard, Austin Blythe, Gabe Jackson, a name people are familiar with, and then Abraham Lucas, the young guy. He's having a really good season, but I mean, Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross are going to have to go against a defensive end group that just never quits. Nick Bosa, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis. They're going to come in waves, and depending on the situation, how exactly can Seattle be successful? I think the way that Seattle can be successful is to establish a run game. But the 49ers defense doesn't let you run the football. I mean, they are just absolutely fantastic against, overall against the run game. And I think that's one of the things to remember is if they can't establish the run, it's going to be very difficult for Seattle. I mean, the 49ers have given up less than 1,000 yards on the season in the run game. That's a lot. There's 13 games that have been played. That means they give up less than 100 yards per game, and Seattle really struggles on the ground. They struggle, consistently getting first downs, and I think that's going to be one of the things in the game to watch. If the 49ers make them one-dimensional, which DeMeco Ryans has said is his goal in every single game, then Geno Smith's going to be in trouble, because if you start getting third and long situations, that's where the 49ers thrive. Actually, the 49ers' biggest weakness is third and short, fourth and short. Those are the 49ers get converted on more on third and one or less than any other team in the league, which is crazy to think because of how good their defense is. But that seems to be the weakness of the team. And Gary says, can you smell what the Brock is cooking? I love all the things that are coming with the Brock Purdy, all the nicknames and stuff. I think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's one of those things where this is an interesting matchup because I feel like the 49ers match up so well against this Seahawks team. Now, my key matchup on offense in this football game for the 49ers is just going to be this offensive line establishing the run game early. I think Seattle's going to come in with a concerted effort to muddy up the middle of the field. They're going to bring all their guys in. They're going to load the box, and they're going to say, okay, can you run on us with 8 guys in the box? The 49ers are going to have to go out there and prove that they can. If they can do that early in this game on offense will be all she wrote. San Francisco 49ers will have everything at their disposal because they will be able to not only run the football at a high level, but then create through the play action pass. And I think they're going to have a tremendous amount of void where they can get the ball to Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and increase role for Ray McLeod. So it's going to be all about the trenches in this matchup. And the 49ers have done a really good job of building, that interior offensive line up. They've played really well over the last several weeks, but also taking advantage of a weakened defense. I mean, you're going to be without Al Woods. That means they're going to have to bring in somebody else to play next to Shelby Harris. Does that mean it's going to be, Brian Maine? Maybe. We'll see what they do. It could be Quentin Jefferson, but it's definitely a weakness where Al Woods was making plays in week 2. 49ers still rushed for over 180 yards with Al Woods making plays and helping stop the run. And then Jan with the super chat says, down and Purdy, Ayuk is on fire. 3rd and Jawan. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Down and Purdy. I like that one. And Jan says, you're my first super chat. Thank you so much, Jan. Really appreciate that. Love that. It was your first one and you did it well. I love what you said. Fantastic. All using the down and Purdy. Ayuk is on fire. And 3rd and Jawan. Well done. Absolutely well done. And Paul says, I believe the ghost that used to haunt the 49ers is now in Denver. Yes. One of the things that coincides with the 49ers struggling, because the 49ers have won 1 of the last 11 matchups against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, is 2012. That's when Russell Wilson took over the helm in Seattle, and the 49ers have struggled in Seattle when Russell Wilson was there. Russell Wilson is gone, and I think it is a different team and a different matchup. The way that, Pete Carroll's went back to kind of his roots about building this football team, he's gotten Tariq Woolen, he's gotten Kobe Bryant. Those are going to be big corners that he can put back into his cover 3 that he wants to run. So those guys fit his system. And then he's went with the outside guys again. He drafted Boy Mafi. He's drafted some guys, that are planning. I think he drafted another guy too. Yeah, Tyreek Smith, but he's on IR. He was from Ohio State. Those are supposed to be his outside edge rushers. Those were, that you can kind of see the way he's building this roster on defense back in the kind of the image that he had at USC, the image of when he first came into the league with the Legion of Boom. I mean, I don't expect these guys to be playing that level. Richard Sherman, and Earl Thomas were just special players, and they elevated the game for everybody. And Camp Chancellor was just such an enforcer in a time where you were allowed to be more of an enforcer in this league. So I do think it's different. But, I mean, you can see the writing on the wall, what they're trying to do, and I thought they drafted really well. But I think they're a couple years away from making this a rivalry. I think the 49ers really, that old rivalry is gone. Pete Carroll's still there, but there's not the tension between Carroll and Shanahan like there was Carroll and Harbaugh. And I think this is the time where the 49ers are going to take care of business and handle Seattle and try to, kind of change it. I mean, all time, Seattle leads this 30-18. And I think the 49ers are going to, pick up a few games here the next few years to be able to make this a little bit closer in this matchup. But, I think it is different without Russell Wilson. Geno Smith's got some ability, but he's definitely not Russell Wilson. He can't create in the same way that Russell, was able to create, extend plays, and make plays down the field. So it's different. Geno Smith wants to have a rhythm passing game, and I know he wants to take shots. And that's one thing that we'll get into with the Seattle offense is they have changed since week 2. It's a little bit different in the way that they're approaching offense. I think Pete Carroll had an idea of how he wanted to attack, with the run game. And I don't think that's really been able to translate to games. So they've had to somewhat switch their game plan. So WTM says, will we see some Danny at wide receiver or McLeod get more reps? I think we're going to see both, because Danny Gray plays a lot of the Brandon Ayuk X factor, X position. The X position is, a outside receiver, lines up on the line of scrimmage, where Deebo Samuel played mainly the Z. And the Z is, the opposite side. A lot of times plays off the ball. I believe that Ray McLeod is going to play the Z. He's going to start. I think we're going to see Danny Gray We saw 11 snaps last week. I fully expect him to play kind of the 15 range. I don't think it's going to be a huge increase for Danny Gray, but he does give you some options if you want to run, try to run him deep and vertical. I think against the Seattle Seahawks, Danny Gray on Tariq Woolen is still not a matchup that you're looking for because Tariq Woolen is almost as fast as Danny Gray, so he's got that speed, but he's also tall, big, and physical. I'm not sure you want Danny Gray in that matchup, but Brandon Ayuk, because of his great route running against a young rookie, I think is still a matchup you like. So I think we're going to see an increased role for Ray McCloud. I think we're going to see an increased role for Christian McCaffrey in the passing game because I think they'd like to get McCaffrey matched up on these linebackers. The linebackers for Seattle, they're Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton. I mean, you get matchups on them, and it's a win. In the week 2 matchup, Kyle Shanahan split out Jeff Wilson Jr., and they gave him a linebacker. And that Cody Barton played a good 10 yards off against Jeff Wilson. They ran a simple stop route, threw him the football, and he got down to the 1-yard line. You're going to put an island linebacker on an island against Kyle Juszczyk, against Christian McCaffrey, against Jordan Mason. Even Mason can catch the football. That's going to be a win for the 49ers. So figure how the 49ers plan on finding these matchups that work against Seattle's defense is going to be interesting. And I think that you're going to see an increased role from everyone as they all kind of try to pick up the load left by Debo. The good news is they have the ability to do it. Whether it's, George Kittle taking on an extra role or, a player like we were just talking about with Christian McCaffrey or with Ray McCloud. And I fully expect Ray McCloud to make plays in this football game. I think we're going to see a little bit of the reason he decided to come play for Kyle Shanahan. So excited about his opportunities. Paul says also on Brad's program, who is in Seattle, he said he was seeing a lot of red around, and wouldn't it be nice for a red wave took over the stadium? That would be tremendously interesting. Yeah, I did see that Brad Graham was out there. Of course, John Chapman, Wayne Breezy. There's a lot of heavy hitters that are out there in Seattle, and there's always a lot of 49ers faithful that show up. We'll see exactly, what that 12th man looks like. Seattle's one of those places that's really hard for an actual takeover. But anytime you can get enough 49er fans to be able to somewhat negate the loudness, that Seattle fans provide, that 12th man, I think that, that's good news. So every single seat that is filled by somebody wearing red or white is a good situation for the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy's going to have to deal with that noise, and I think that is something that's going to be pivotal in this football game. Brock Purdy's games against Miami, against Tampa Bay, were in the friendly confines of Levi Stadium. He got to play there, and he got, to have the crowd a lot quieter, and that is going to be a big thing to go through. But I think it's very important because going through that and dealing with silent count and dealing with a raucous crowd is going to benefit the 49ers and benefit Brock Purdy when we get to the playoffs. I mean, I know the 49ers are probably going to have a home playoff game in the first round of the playoffs, and if they're able to catch Minnesota, they will at least have 2 home playoff games, and that will help Brock Purdy overall. But at some point, right, it's going to be on the road versus Philly potentially. It's going to be, in a Super Bowl, and you want Brock Purdy to be able to handle those situations. He talked very nicely about how he handled things, in Norman, Oklahoma, those crowds. He dealt with crowds 90,000 plus. I think those do help prepare you, but let's see what happens when he gets into Seattle. The electric crowd is going to be there. The electricity in the room, as the 49ers know they can clinch the division. There's something to play for. This isn't a normal football game. This is a different type of game, and I think that's exciting. So that's what I really like. And so WTM says, do you want to see Hufanga in the box more? This week, I want to see Hufanga everywhere. Last time when we played Seattle was probably one of those times where I know in week 1 he had a coming out party, but week 2 he had a big time game. He was able to jump in front of route, tip it, Tyshawn Gibson make the interception. He played in the box and was able to stop the run in the backfield. He got after Geno Smith. Hufanga was a wrecking force last time. So I think using Hufanga in a variety of different ways is going to work. And it going through the film and watching on Patreon, or for my breakdown on Patreon, one thing that the 49ers did is as the game went, they ramped up the pressure on Geno Smith. They sped up his process, and he struggled. And we're talking about a Seattle Seahawks offense that averages over 26 points a game, but only got 7 against the 49ers last time. And that was not on offense. That was on a blocked field goal that they took to the house. So they were unable to get things going, even with Tyler Lockett, even with DK Metcalf. It's one of those things, even with Marquise Goodwin. Kenneth Walker will probably play in this game, and he could play, a pivotal role, not even just in the run game, but catching the ball in the backfield. But yeah, I think Hufanga could be in the box more than we've seen him in the last several weeks. And if he can time up Geno Smith a little bit, he can make some plays. Jan says, let Hufanga doesn't get too trigger happy again. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't. And Rick says, let's take one game at a time. Oh, of course you take it one game at a time. As far as what your focus is, if you're a football player or if you're a coach. But for us, we can see like we're looking ahead because we're allowed to do that. But if you're coaching or you're playing, your only focus is today. Your only focus is on the matchups that you're going to be looking at. It was one day at a time. When I coached, I used to tell the guys all the time, I said, both teams coming in this game are 0-0. They used to always ask me, hey, I want to know the record of the other team. That was one of the first things. What's the record of the other team? I say, no. Everyone's 0-0. Everyone's 0-0. We go into this game. It's one game at a time. Matchups mean a lot. So you got to focus on your keys and what you're supposed to do and play as a unit. And so, yeah, I think it's a little bit different for a team and their mindset compared to a fan base and their mindset. But, yeah, I get what you're saying, Rick, for sure. Paul says, good teaching moments, nice positive attitude. Yes, for sure. That's exactly it. Rick says it'll be okay. They know they got the run their assignment on offensive line is to protect the quarterback. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, the 49ers are well equipped for this situation. But it'll be nice. I think these are good things, for Brock Purdy. I think he's going to be able to handle it. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to handle this with flying colors. I just like the fact that he gets to experience everything he gets to experience helps prepare him, for what's coming next. So, all these things are good for a young quarterback. And if it was Trey Lance, I would think the exact same thing. Him getting these experiences are huge for his development. And I think that's nice. Paul says Jimmy Ward didn't play last time either. Ding, ding, ding. You're right, he didn't. And that's an interesting matchup in this game as well, is Jimmy Ward in the slot against Marquise Goodwin. If they run Marquise Goodwin up the seam, he's got that track speed. I wonder how Jimmy Ward handles it. Now, Ward was able to body, Godwin. He was able to get on Evans. I thought he played maybe one of his best games of the year last week against Tampa Bay. How will he handle that speed? Marquise Goodwin's not like a tremendous route runner, but he's pretty good. So that will be interesting. Him on Tyler Lockett will be interesting as well. I think that's one of the key matchups in this football game is that wide receiver group against Jimmy Ward. If it's DK Metcalf, I'm okay because Metcalf, straight line guy, big physical, but not a great route runner. Doesn't have an extended route tree. So I think it'll be okay, with that. But I am worried a little bit about the speed. But I do like his playmaking ability. Since he's been in the nickel, he makes plays. And I think that's going to be fun. Rick says the 49ers are going to play tight coverage, control the line of scrimmage, protect the ball, and no penalties all the way to the fourth quarter. Yeah, I think that's a recipe for success for the 49ers. The first goal is to stop the run, make Seattle one-dimensional. And, however you need to do that, you do that with run blitzes, or if you're able to stop them with just a 7-man in the box. One thing that I want to get into is Seattle, and this is one of those things that Seattle's done over the last several weeks. When they played the 49ers in week 2, they would play 2 tight ends. So, they would go with Noah Fant, they would go with Will Dissly, and they would put the 49ers in their base 4-3 set and then try to take advantage in the play action game with Azeez Al-Shire in coverage. That was one of their goals. They would run a certain formation to get Azeez out in the slot and then take advantage of it. We remember last year, right? Azeez Al-Shire on DK Metcalf in the slot. Metcalf wins. So that was what they tried to do in week 2. That did not work this time. The 49ers took it away. The 49ers brought Hufanga in the box. He would play Tyler Lockett one-on-one in the slot, and he did pretty good. So the 49ers were able to navigate through that. So now the Seattle Seahawks, that hasn't worked, have went to more of a 3 wide receiver set, Goodwin, DK, and Tyler Lockett. And if that happens, then Jimmy Ward's going to be on the field. Now, I think the 49ers would love for that to be the case. They like when Jimmy Ward's on the field. He's one of the best in run fits in the league from the nickel corner spot. So I think that that's kind of what you're going to see this matchup. and how exactly Seattle plans on attacking, but it's going to be different than week 2 in how they go about their business. But as they've increased the amount of times in which they spread and throw the football, they've also increased turnovers. Geno Smith with 2 interceptions last week. He wants to be able to rhythm pass, throw it underneath. And you know what? The 49ers want to allow him to do that. They're going to rally and make tackles just like they did against Tom Brady. 4.5 yards per catch last week for Tom Brady. So I think that, the 49ers know what the game plan is, keep things underneath, make Seattle have to execute consistently. And if you do that, eventually they're going to fall off. You're going to make a play. You're going to get a sack. And Geno Smith does hold the football a lot longer than Tom Brady. He doesn't get the ball out as quickly as Brady. There's a reason why Brady didn't get sacked, and it's because he got rid of the football, whether that was a completion, an incompletion, or just an absolute, get rid of it, fire moment. I think that this is just a different matchup. Traffic says Geno Smith was a cute little story while it lasted. 49ers are going to be the ones to put it to an end. Yeah, I think Geno Smith, he was rolling pretty good there for a while. They had a stretch run, a 4-game stretch where they were playing lights out. He was a good reason why they were making plays. They were able to get the ball vertically down the field. And then also Kenneth Walker was running the football at a high rate. And as soon as he was able to run the football at that rate, they were able to, kind of get the play action pass going. And that's where they can be dynamic, because if you can get those linebackers to engage and those, safeties to engage, then you can go down the field, to your big time weapons. But they haven't been able to do that consistently. And that's part of the reason they've been on this skid. They haven't ran the football well. 49ers in the first matchup held them to 36 yards on the ground. That is not going to be a recipe for success for Seattle. And if the 49ers come in and stop that run game, make them one-dimensional, it's just a matter of time before they get to Geno Smith for sacks, and it's just a matter of time before he puts the ball in the 49ers' hands with a huge turnover. I think they can get to him. WTM says, what's the biggest advantage we have in this game? The biggest advantage in this game is our defense. Our defense is the best in the league. They only give up 15.2 points per game, which means if you're an offense, you have to play really, really good to score. But if you're a defense, you have to hold our offense, points way down. I mean, anytime the 49ers get to 20, you have to believe they have a really good chance to win. And I think that is one of the things you go into. You just have this, special ability on defense, and that allows you so many opportunities to be able to win games, because as long as you play your style of defense, you're in every single matchup you go in. It's not like you have to have a huge game from your quarterback. If you have a huge game, you win the game, huge 35-7. But if you have a quarterback that comes in there and he just plays within the system, takes what the defense gives him, and you run the football, then you're able to, win football games in this league. So that's the thing. It's about scoring 23 points a game. If you score 23, you have a good chance to win, every single game you play, because this 49ers defense doesn't give over 17 points. The last 6 weeks, no one has scored more than 17. The 49ers have held teams scoreless 8 halves this year. It's just spectacular. The defense is absolutely fantastic. And you know what? Let me see. Sorry about that if you're getting some sort of a bot. I appreciate that. Thanks for telling me. I'll go ahead and take care of it here. Sorry about that, guys. Really appreciate you telling me, Jan. All right. So, anyways, back to it. Let's get back to these questions that were going on. Rick says, I say all the time, can you see, let's get one game at a time. Every week is a challenge. It really is. And Robert Davis, how's it going? Robert says, Geno is going to turn into the pumpkin tonight. Love the Cinderella reference. Yeah, I think it could be the night. The 49ers could officially put Seattle in a world of hurt, because Seattle's games after this it's not a friendly schedule. They've got Kansas City and they've got the New York Jets. I mean, the 49ers could put an end to their Seattle's thoughts of winning the NFC West. And then in 2 weeks, Robert Saleh could put an end to Seattle's playoff chances. Could be interesting, right? Robert Saleh finishing off the Seahawks. I kind of love it that it's going to happen like that. So Paul says 3 wide receiver sets means they probably are behind and they're abandoning the run. I think normally, yes, but this is how they started against Carolina last week. I'm sure it was a look, something that they wanted, but they've transitioned. And actually, DeMeco Ryans discussed this when he had his presser this week, was that Seattle has translated into more of a spread set, a 3 wide receiver, 4 wide receiver sets. I think that they abandoned the run game already before the game even gets started. It's one of those things where it's interesting, Paul, that they're already doing that, right? Abandoning. I think that, when it comes down to it, the 49ers definitely have an advantage because Seattle doesn't have a good run game. And last week they knew they didn't have Kenneth Walker. But it was interesting, that game overall. Some of the formations that the Panthers ran on offense, it was funny because I used to run some of them when I coached, and I haven't seen them that much. And it was funny seeing the Panthers run them, and they executed them pretty well, and they had advantages. And Seattle moves a lot with motion, so the 49ers moving, players pre-snap is going to get a lot of movement from Seattle. You're going to create horizontal windows with that movement. You motion Ray McLeod, they move this way, creates a horizontal window on the backside to be able to throw the football, or in the middle of the field. That's why Kyle Shanahan uses so much motion. There's so much conversation that has to happen on defense, but it also moves people out of their spots. You motion Ray McLeod this way, run a play action this way, then you've got them moved and then trying to come back underneath, going downhill to stop the run. And then you come out on the other side and throw to an open receiver because you've created these windows. I mean, that's one thing Kyle Shanahan is one of the best in the league at, is using pre-snap motion and formation shifts to adjust the defense, and then throws play action on top of it to put them in a world of hurt, because now that they've moved, where they got to get to set their zones are different. Their spots are different. And then you just really put them in vertical stretches, horizontal stretches for linebackers. And it makes it really difficult for them to be able to, stop anyone. WTM says, what do you think Elijah Mitchell and Kinlaw are doing? I think they're both preparing to come back. I think Javon Kinlaw, hopefully they're going to open the practice window on Monday. At least that's the expectation. And then we'll see what happens, if they end up bringing him back for any of the regular season, or if they wait and, just play him in the playoffs. I think they're probably hoping that he's able to play early because you have so many injuries with Kevin Givens, Hassan Ridgeway along the defensive line. I think they'd like to knock some of the rust off. But if you can get a huge run stopper for your playoff run, that's what you're doing. A 21-day window means he could potentially, get activated for the playoffs, and that's what you need, right? And as long as he was able to hold up in those practices, you're going to get Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and then Kevin Givens comes back in a few weeks. He could help as well. And then there's that outside chance of Hassan Ridgeway coming to help you for the playoffs. That's why they didn't put him on IR. So this defensive line could go from, struggling with depth to being one of the deepest teams again in the NFL, and that could come huge. 49ers Josh says, biggest game of the year. Rise up, faithful, and show out today. It's time for big boy, beefy football. I love it. Yeah, win in the trenches. I love it, Josh. Thanks for coming through chat and leaving that. It's a hype day. It's going to be exciting. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Jan says, no problem. Thank you so much for that. Tab says, are fouls seriously played? Unsportsman conduct, can't quit, ref. Don't know exactly what that means. I think the 49ers did really good with penalties last time. They struggled. They've struggled at times with penalties, but not last time against the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle with 10 penalties, the 49ers with just 1. 49ers Josh says, I want 40 rushes tonight, and we know 40 rushes means the San Francisco 49ers win. When Kyle Shanahan's teams rush for 40 yards, it is a guaranteed victory for the San Francisco 49ers. And 49ers Josh says, I expect Kittle to have a breakout game. I think, people are really waiting for Kittle to have this big game. Last week, it was a concerted effort to go at Kittle early on, and they got Kittle involved. And Kittle, even though he hasn't had a lot of targets over the last couple weeks, has had some pivotal plays, not just in the passing game where he's caught some big third downs, even a fourth down catch along the sideline, but also in the run game. He has done a lot, and it's one of those things where you don't think about it, but the Christian McCaffrey touchdown up the sideline is also coinciding with George Kittle motioning into the backfield and then helping pick up a blitz up the middle in the A-gaps. Without him being there and picking up that blitz, and we know Kittle's one of the best to do it, you're not able to have the time to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey. So using all elements of George Kittle's game has been very beneficial for the 49ers run, and that's part of the reason that they've won 6 in a row. Now, I want to get into my Wow That's Bold prediction, and last week my Wow That's Bold prediction came true, so I'm really excited about this one.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. So last week, my wow, that's bold prediction was that Tom Brady was going to throw 2 interceptions. A Tom Brady that was 16 touchdowns for 3 interceptions. It wasn't something he did, and I just felt like he was going to throw interceptions in this football game, and he ended up coming out and doing it. So I think that, when it comes down to it with bold predictions, you want them to be bold, but you also want them, to also be a little out there, take a chance, take an opportunity. And I think that's, something that I want to do. And, one thing that Seattle's pretty good at is third down conversions. They do third down conversions at a pretty high rate, and the 49ers do a third down conversions at a pretty high rate. And that's what my wow, that's bold is going to be for this week. I believe the San Francisco 49ers defense is going to hold Seattle to under 35% on third down conversions. They're going to get off the field. They're going to do a great job on defense, getting the ball back to Brock Purdy, getting the ball back to this run game. And that's how the 49ers are going to win, is they're going to get off the field and get it back to their offense. And I think they flip the script on Seattle's being able to have third and shorts. I think there's going to be a lot of third and longs, and the 49ers are able to get after the Seattle Seahawks, get after Geno Smith. It's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited about this matchup between the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. And then we got some bold predictions coming through. I'm curious to see what all of them are. Let's see. Jan says, my bold prediction is Geno going to get sacked 4 times. I love that. Absolutely fantastic there. And then Kenny says, I'll make a bold prediction. 49ers won't lose another game this year. Hint, hint, hint. Love it, Kenny. Kenny's coming through with it right there. I love that. It's going to be good. I mean, I really do think it's going to be very cool. We got lots of good stuff coming through right now. As you can see, the chat has stopped a little bit on the screen. I'm going to try to fix that as well while we're continuing to talk, but keep leaving all those predictions in there. Really looking forward to it. And I think that I'm looking for more here. Looking for everyone's stuff. Going back to the YouTube here. Big Bird says, love Purdy in college and so glad to see him get his chance to step up. With that, D stepping up and the run offense helping him, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. He's making big-time plays. And Robert Davis says, my bold prediction is Niners shut out the Seahawks. Woo! A shutout against Seattle would be absolutely fantastic. I would love to see that. 49ers Josh, bold prediction. Armstead gets a sack. Bosa gets 2. Defense gets 6 total sacks and 2 picks. I like where Josh's head is at. That would be absolutely fantastic with that bold prediction from Josh. I love it. WTM says, bold prediction, Purdy 4 touchdowns. If Purdy gets 4 touchdowns, everyone's going to love, where he's going, and everyone's going to start talking him up. He's already getting a lot of national media attention because he was Mr. Irrelevant, but that would definitely put it over the top. Love it. Mosquito Killer, how's it going, Mosquito Killer? Thanks for jumping in. Really appreciate it. 49er Josh says Juice gets a TD. I love a Juice TD. On the Madden sim, Juice got a TD, so I love that. WTM says bold prediction: Seahawks won't lead the game tonight at all. I love that. Yeah, let's do that. That's absolutely fantastic. That you could have them not even have an opportunity to lead. I think you could, and that would be huge. That would be absolutely huge for the 49ers if that happened. Yeah, so I think that this is going to be one of those matchups that's going to be cool. Traffic coming through with a bold prediction here. Geno Smith and Seahawks leading rush with a grand total of 20 yards. Woo, that's a shutdown from the 49ers defense. I love the bold predictions, and that makes me think, what is everyone thinking about the 49ers overall score tonight? 49ers for Seahawks. It's going to be a great game. What do you think? Who is going to win this matchup between the 49ers and the Seahawks? Who is going to come away with the victory? I'm really interested to see what everyone has to say in chat. And Kenny comes through with another bold prediction for tonight. Ray-Ray McLeod, a kickoff return for a touchdown. Love that. Robert Davis, bold prediction, Seahawks equal 50, under 50 yards rushing. Ooh, that's spectacular. So what is the score tonight for this game? I mean, obviously, most of us think the 49ers are going to win, but what is going to be that score of the 49ers winning the NFC West? I'm very curious what everyone has to say. And I'm going to get into what my score prediction is for this game. I think the 49ers, and if you watched Cover 2 last night, you probably got an idea, because I think the 49ers are going to score 27 points in this game, and I think they're going to hold the Seahawks to 13. I think the Seahawks are going to have, a couple field goals and maybe a touchdown, and I think the touchdown could come in garbage time, but I think the 49ers win 27-13, win the NFC West, and just take control of their playoff destiny. And then it's all about, are they going to be the 3 seed or are they going to be a 2 seed for the rest of the season? I think that's just where we're going to be at with the 49ers, because 49ers, they're all about it. They're a team that's been executing at a pretty high level, and the scores are coming in from everyone. Spy Nick Danger, 49ers 24-21. Kenny, 24-10, 49ers. 49ers Josh, 37-16. Niners Empire rise up. Love it. Robert Davis, 49ers 31-0. Love Robert Davis. I love that. I hope your prediction comes true. 31-0, an absolute drubbing, and walking into Seattle and fully exercising the demons. That is spectacular. Joel says 49ers 38-10. Paul says Niners 33. Seahawks 6, -1 from last night. Ooh, I like that you're taking points away, Paul, from last night. Yeah, Paul gave a score on Cover 2 last night. And consistent with 20-17. That is as good. And 49er Josh says, hey, please, 2 seed. Yeah, I would love it. I would love it. Jason L says, dang it. What the crap? I haven't been getting notifications for your live streams. I'm sorry about that, Jason. Yeah, sometimes YouTube kind of messes up with the live streams overall, and the notifications really stinks. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to start putting it again on the community page to let people know what's going on. And Carlos, how's it going? Carlos says 32-13 San Francisco, baby. I love it. I love these scores that are coming in. Lots of really nice scores. WTM with 49ers 27-9. I love the fact the Seahawks don't even get a touchdown. Just 3 field goals coming from WTM. Freddie McDre, what is up? How's it going, Freddie McDre? Always good when Freddie comes through. Jan says, every time I predict a close game, the Niners win big. Well, keep getting close games then. What are you doing? Come on, Jan. You keep predicting close games, some of the 49ers win big. That's what we need. Team Cali says 49ers 35-13. BV50, how's it going, BV? Says 24-14 San Francisco. Really, really good. KNDR 31-10 with the people's quarterback, the Brock, responsible for 21 of those points. 31-10, a nice 21-point victory. So we're seeing a lot of big victories, people believing the 49ers can walk into Seattle and absolutely take advantage of the Seattle Seahawks. I love that. I love the confidence. It's spectacular. And 49ers Josh has smashed that like button so other Niner faithful can find this great pod. Really appreciate that, 49ers Josh. And traffic, 24-20, Purdy, 17 of 25, 210, 1 TD, 1 INT. And I love the specifics. That's one thing I really like. I love the specifics of it. Full breakdown, 17 of 25. That's 8 incompletions, 210, 1 TD, 1 INT. And, that's one of those things, right, where there's probably going to be an interception at some point that we're going to have to live with. I think really when Brock Purdy has played so far this year, he hasn't really had a turnover that was like a hurtful one. Last week's got called back. The week before was on 4th down, but it was like a punt. He threw it up to Brandon Ayuk. It didn't work out, but it didn't hurt the 49ers overall. It pinned them back inside the 20. So I think that right now he hasn't thrown one of those pivotal ones. I thought last week he did. But yeah, it's been pretty good from him so far. Jason L says that they shadow banning because it's been happening to a lot of 49ers streamers. LOL. Um, yeah, maybe they are. That's pretty funny. Jason says 21-10 49ers. I like it. 11-point victory. I think I'd feel comfortable with that. Robert says Niners gonna smash the Sea Chickens in the face. Pretty good. Carlos Santana said let's Purdy do this thing in the hostile environment. It's Purdy magic. Yeah, it's good news that Brock Purdy's gonna be playing according to Adam Schefter. That was really good news. The 49ers definitely need it. Robert Davis says 44 viewers, only 12 likes. Come on, people. Likes are free. The content is priceless. And we do have 26 likes right now. So, some people have stepped up with the likes. Really appreciate that. Thanks for liking the video. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You guys are really, really the best. And I definitely appreciate all the love. And this is going to be a spectacular game tonight, guys. I mean, it really is. You're going to feel the energy from the very moment that this thing kicks off. You'll probably feel it from before that even happens because so much is on the line. This isn't, 49ers Seahawks always has like a special ring to it. But this one is for the division. And this one is the 49ers potentially, ending the Seahawks, hopes. It is ending their hope for winning the division. But securing a playoff spot, and that's one of your goals when you go into the season. It's not your ending goal, but you do have a goal to win the division and get to the playoffs. And the 49ers know after beating Tampa Bay last week that winning this game against Seattle in Seattle not only gets them the NFC West title, but means they're going to be at worst the 3 seed. That means you have a home playoff game. You kind of let things play out as they may, but it also means you're within striking distance against Minnesota, because even though Minnesota's got a favorable schedule over the remainder of the playoffs, you still have the opportunity, for them to lose football games. And I think they can lose football games. And I think the 49ers can take advantage of that. So it's a really pivotal game to be able to win. Jason L says CMC gets 130 yards rushing and Mason gets 110. They run the ball 40 times and only pass 10 times because the Chickens can't stop the run. If they go off for over 40 carries in this game, we know that's a guaranteed victory for the San Francisco 49ers. But if they go off with those numbers that Jason just said, as CMC rushes for 130 and Mason 110, that's 240 yards on the ground from those two guys. That is an absolute butt whipping. If the 49ers are able to run the football like that, we're going to start talking about them, a lot like 2019 where the run game is really unstoppable. And Carlos says, are you streaming the game tonight, boss? I am not streaming the game tonight. After being sick last week, my voice can't really hold up for an entire game stream. So I won't be doing that. I'm still working towards getting back. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Sometimes it kind of comes up, but I'm still fighting that. But at some point, I'll get back to that a little bit. But thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. So Freddie McJ says Purdy 21-27. 0 INTs, 2 TDs, 245 yards. Kittle, CMC, and Mason all get a TD. I love that. I love the predictions that are coming through right now. A lot of confidence within the 49ers fan base about their team on offense and defense, because every score I see is pretty low. I haven't seen a score over 17, for an opposing team. I mean, maybe there was one 24-20 from traffic, but pretty much everyone is in belief that this 49ers defense is going to show up and show out. You got to love to see that. Robert Davis says, this is the game Jordan Mason goes ham over 100 yards. Spectacular if he does. Jordan Mason has the ability, and he's been able to run the ball at a pretty high rate. I mean, his numbers have been spectacular. Last week, Christian McCaffrey's numbers were spectacular. I felt like they used them in a pretty good way last week. Jordan Mason, 11 carries. I think that's kind of his sweet spot. 10 to 12 carries. Be able to kind of, give Christian McCaffrey a break here and there. But, I don't think you need more carries from him like that. But if he's able to really get rolling and, you have a lead in the fourth quarter, then potentially his carries could go up 15 to 18. If that happens, if Jordan Mason carries the ball 15 to 18 and Christian McCaffrey is, been a big part of the game, that means you're ahead, you're playing ahead, and you're just working the clock. That's good news for the 49ers. So 100 yards in that would be absolutely spectacular. 49ers Josh says, Mason, baby Marshawn. We'll see. I mean, that's a lot to live up to, but I definitely like the way that he goes. BV50, Ant, do you think the 49ers need to upgrade the backup to Brock? I think they understand what they were doing with Josh Johnson. Josh Johnson, just from what Kyle Shanahan talked about, how he has so much intelligence that he picked up the offense in a week. And I think with Josh Johnson understanding the offense and being able to pick it up, was something that Kyle really needed at the time. They needed to bring in a veteran presence who could pick up this offense at a high rate. Do I think they would love to have a better backup? I think so. I think you always want to have the best talent you could possibly have at every position. The question is, are they going to be able to find that player? I don't know who that better backup is. Could it potentially be Jimmy Garoppolo if he gets healthy? Potentially. But I think right now, I think they're going to roll with Josh Johnson. And Kyle Shanahan's belief that this locker room would play hard for Josh Johnson because they all respect him, I think is, what you're kind of going with. And, you don't expect to go through 2 quarterbacks, let alone 3. So if you did go through Brock Purdy, I think at some point, right, you're kind of running out of guys. So hopefully it doesn't happen and they don't need to. But right now, I think Josh Johnson makes the most sense because he understands the offense. He's a nice veteran presence. But with all positions, I think you would love to upgrade if you have the opportunity. Just who's that player that you're going to be able to upgrade to. George Cook says, what do you think Walker does tonight against the Niners? It all depends on, how exactly he's feeling, number one. I think also it depends on the 49ers' concerted effort to stop the run, which I think they're going to do. I think Kenneth Walker is going to have between 50 and 75 yards tonight. That's what I think he's going to do on the ground. I think the 49ers are going to come in there and really slow him up. I think he'll have some, opportunities here and there. We've seen things happen, but I don't think he's going over for 100. I don't think he's having a big game. I think 50 to 75 yards. I think he will catch a couple of passes out of the backfield too. But we'll see. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner getting after him is going to be important, covering him out of the backfield. So, I think Kenneth Walker's a good player, but I think the 49ers are going to make a concerted effort to take him away. So we'll see. Jason L says the Panthers ran for over 200 and Jacobs ran for 230 on his own. Yeah, that's one thing. The Seattle Seahawks haven't been able to stop the run game all year. They have 2 games this year where they've held a team under 100 yards. That was against the Chargers and that was against the New York Giants. Every other game, they've given up over 100+ yards, and some of those games they've given over 200 yards rushing. It hasn't been great rush defense from the Seattle Seahawks, and that's where the 49ers have their huge advantage. I'm looking here, and they've given up 1, 2, 3 200-yard games this year, and one of those 200-yard games, the one to the Las Vegas Raiders, was 283 yards. But every other team has went over 100 yards, including the 49ers with 189. So it's not like this is a very spectacular, defense for, as far as against the run. So I think there's going to be, it's going to be difficult for them to stop the run. I think the 49ers are going to be able to get it going. And 49ers, Josh says over 5 yards a carry for Mason. He's been doing that at a pretty high level right now. And Robert Davis's backups get a lot of run in the fourth quarter, predicting a blowout. I love the blowouts. They're very very relaxing. They make it a lot more enjoyable. Kenny says Kyle needs to use Coleman and TDP during Raiders and Cardinals game. It's let CMC and Mason rest for total domination in the playoffs. Yeah, I think playoff seeding is going to play a big part in that. If the 49ers, have the opportunity to be the number 3 seed, we may see Christian McCaffrey in those games. But I think the 49ers are going to really try to use him sparingly the farther we get into the season, because I think they know what Christian McCaffrey means to this offense, especially in the playoffs. So I do think a rest period is going to come for a lot of these players. I think you're going to see a lot of guys rest, especially if the 49ers can lock up the 2 seed. And you have injuries, unfortunately to Kyler Murray, but I think that changes the last game of the year too and how you approach playing Arizona. So we can remember that. Vegas says Seattle's going to a big dose of Monster Mason and CMC. I love it. Yeah, Mason, he's been spectacular. Paul says our front office brought in Johnson very quickly on Sunday that Jimmy got hurt. Good job. It was a great job. And if you go back and watch some of his training camp, he was executing at a pretty high level. So it was a great signing at the time. Robert says with Armstead, linebackers will have several TFLs tonight against Walker. Armstead has been spectacular in the middle. He's been getting a huge push. He's been occupying the inside part of that defense. It's been really nice to see. And 49er Josh says Greenlaw and Bosa will have standout games, in my opinion. I think Bosa is going to look to get make up for some of those missed sacks. He's really, really, really spectacular. WTM says, who is the Seahawks' best defensive player? I think the Seahawks' best defensive player right now is probably Tariq Woolen. I know he's a rookie, but he's come up with 6 interceptions. He's been playing at a pretty high rate. He's looked the best. I mean, I think you could probably talk about their linebacker Jordan Brooks, or you know what, let me double check. I think Quandre Diggs, he's still one of their best players, even though he hasn't had the greatest season. So I'm saying between Quandre Diggs and Tariq Woolen, as far as the best players right now for the Seattle Seahawks. They got it. They got some talent. They really do. I mean, but I just think it's the matchup. Paul says 2 seed will be in reach if the Vikings lose Sunday. They're playing the Colts. Can Matt Ryan and that Colts team, Jeff Saturday, get a victory and help the 49ers out? That would be very nice if they did. And so BV50 says, what's your thoughts about McKinnon's game last Sunday? McKinnon, he had that interesting flip from Patrick Mahomes, and then he gets down the field for a big play. Overall, McKinnon's having himself, a pretty good season. So always happy for players when they're out there and they're playing well. As long as it doesn't coincide with the playing the 49ers. So as long as that doesn't happen, I'm okay with it. 49ers, Josh says, who does Vikings play this weekend? They play the Colts. They play the Indianapolis Colts. So that's going to be interesting. Maybe Buckner can get after them, get after Kirk Cousins, and potentially get a win. Team Cali says, Seahawks fans think they have an advantage due to Debo being out. Apparently, they don't know about our weapons. Shake my head. Yeah, all you have to do is look at the 49ers roster. You can find a tremendous amount of talent all throughout the roster. So, yeah, I think that, you got to, Debo's a big loss. It always is. You can't replace, the production that Debo adds and the kind of the added element of him being in the backfield or him being at wide receiver, catching those screens. But when it comes down to it, the 49ers have the weapons to make up for it. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Ray McLeod. I think that's what's going to be interesting is seeing how Ray responds to the extra playing time. WTP Niner says, Hufanga taking one back to the house. I would love that. I would love for a Hufanga to have a touchdown. It was in week 2 that he really broke out against the Seattle Seahawks. Let's see if he can duplicate that performance. I would love it. WTM says, how comfortable can our O-line be tonight? I think they can be very comfortable. I do think that Seattle's going to try to confuse them. But Seattle's had some losses along that, defensive line. They're not going to have Al Woods, and I think that's going to make a big difference. They have added, pass rush with Bruce Irvin coming in during the year. So he'll be able to do some things. They got Nwusu. He brings some pressure off the edge. But those guys also like to come in and attack. And I think sometimes they're susceptible to a hard count. So let's see, what happens. I'm sure it's going to be loud. We'll see if that silent count ends up getting to them or not. It was a big difference in the 49ers when they played at Levi's. So that's something to remember as well. And then, we'll see how much are we going to see of Boy Mafi. The 49ers took advantage of Boy Mafi in the run game last time. And if Boy Mafi's out there, maybe the 49ers could take advantage of him again. So I think that's another advantage you could possibly use. So we'll see. 49ers Josh says, is talking about McKinnon. This is a joke. It's one of those things where I hate that he was injured when he was with the 49ers, but I like to see players do well. As long as they're not playing against the 49ers when they do well. Jason says, do you think Ray takes on the Debo light role tonight? Yeah, I do. I mean, he's going to play the Z role within this offense. That's what he's going to do. They're going to motion him. They're going to move him. We saw a little bit of it at the end of the game where they ran him on a jet sweep. They gave him a pitch out of the backfield. I think Ray does it not to the level of Debo and not with the amount of reps as Debo, but I think you're going to see a little bit of that in this game. You'll see more of the dynamics of that Ray McLeod provides to this football team that we haven't really got to see because of the players ahead of him. So I think he's going to step up. I think he's going to make some plays. And I'm excited to see Ray McLeod do it because he's got abilities. And he's got abilities that the 49ers haven't been able to tap into yet. We've seen him make some clutch catches here and there, but we haven't got to see the full dynamics of his game and what he provides. And I think maybe we'll see a little bit of that in this game. I think it's going to be a smaller package, though. I don't think he's going to go in there and just take over the Debo role or anything like that. But definitely something that I'm looking forward to seeing in this game. Robert says, I think Gray and Ray will help make up for Debo. It'll be interesting to see what Danny Gray's role is within this offense. So I think that overall, I'm curious to see it. I'm glad he got his first catch, but we'll see. Exactly. And Tony Montana says, let's go, faithful. Big game. Let's roast these sea chickens tonight. I love the energy. That's the energy we got to have all day long today. Game day, Niners versus Seahawks. And Jan says Niners played well the last time Debo was out. They've definitely figured out how to overcome Debo. That big win against the Rams, Christian McCaffrey pretty much did it all. So yeah, I definitely think they figured out ways to do it. WTP says we should start Mason at running back. and CMC as a wide back. I think you might see a little bit of them in the backfield together. It might be our first glimpse of Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason running together. You go back to that Rams game when Debo was out, they did go with Jeff Wilson Jr. In there with Christian McCaffrey. The one thing that was different was Jeff Wilson Jr. was a tremendous blocker. I don't know exactly how Jordan Mason is as a blocker yet. We haven't got to see it. So I'll be curious to see what he could do in that role. So we'll see. Robert Davis says Seahawks cannot stop the run. CMC and Mason will run roughshod through them. I'm with you. I'm agreeing on that. Cowboy Angel says bang bang Purdy gang. Love it. Vegas says Vegas 49ers is predicting a 38-13 Niners win tonight. Love the prediction. Love the big time win for the San Francisco 49ers. So that's good. Team Cali is coming through. He says, Tony Montana, I'm always yelling, hold the ball when Ray has it in his hands. It's funny. It sounds like the Friday Night Lights. Hold on. Or actually, remember the Titans. Hold on to that ball, Petey. Hold on to that ball. So, yeah, Ray McLeod has had himself, a really, really good season. So, everyone, thank you guys so much for coming through chat. I really enjoyed it. What a spectacular chat this was. Game day today, 49ers versus Seattle Seahawks. I can't wait for this matchup. 49ers are going to win the division tonight. It's going to be spectacular. Thanks, everyone, for coming through. I hope you guys all have a good day. Go 49ers. And then catch me on the game reaction show tonight. If you guys want to come through, we'll interact on chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.